written production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.
Good morning, everyone. I call this exchange meeting to order and ask you to rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Welcome to the exchange meeting for May. I'm Kat Fimmel, President of the 2023 Board of Directors. This meeting is audio and video recorded by the RCSC management and staff. Please be advised that there is no recording of the meeting by any individual. Please take out your cell phones and electronic devices and place them in the silent mode. I'll try to remember at the end of the meeting to remind you to turn them back on again. Now I'd like to introduce your board of directors. Vice President Karen McAdams, Secretary Jean Totten.
Good morning.
Treasurer John Fast.
Good morning.
Director Steve Collins.
Hello, everyone.
Director John Nowakowski.
Good morning.
Director Denny Nichols. Still must be traveling. Director Jeff Darbett.
Morning.
And Director Jim Ruff.
Good morning, all.
Introduction of management staff. Bill Cook, General Manager.
Good morning, everybody.
Kevin McCurdy, Director of Finance.
Good morning.
Mike Whitbrew, Director of Building and Infrastructure. Chris Herring, Director of Operations. Brian Duthu, Director of Golf and Grounds.
Good morning.
Mike Durmeyer, Director of Bowling. Jolynn Higgins, Communications and RCSC Marketing Coordinator. Beth Lucas, Sun City Visitor Center and Marketing Manager. Marcia Johnson, the Corporate Executive Coordinator.
Good morning.
Teresa Sereno, the Director of Events and Entertainment, up in the booth. Okay. I also would like to recognize Alan Kleinhans and Carly Young, the audio-video engineers, and our timekeeper, Tracy Busseberger, as well as all of the RCSC staff that help make this happen every month. Before we open the floor to member comments, are there any comments from the directors?
Yes.
Secretary Totten.
I just wanted to say how we treat people is our choice, and if we choose not to be respectful, it can come back to bite us. Let's all try to think before we speak. Also, those of you who have followed me through my journey to become a board member know that one of my pet peeves with RCSC and the board is that there is no communication committee. Rather than create a motion at this time to resurrect one, I'd like to see a show of hands of those out in this group who think that it's necessary to have a communication committee. Thank you. I am open to comments, criticism, and suggestions as I spend time researching this, since I've been told there was no interest before. I've had some issues with my board email address, so I hesitate to suggest you use that. I do have another address you can use. It's kind of simple to remember. Jean Totten dot ILUV Sun City at gmail.com. So if you've got any comments or you're interested in volunteering and being involved on the communication committee, let me know. I imagine in the fall, maybe I'll have something more to speak out about that. Thank you.
Director Collins.
Thank you, Madam President. Folks, I'm in charge of the COC committee, and I really need some volunteers to come and help us. We're turning the COC committee around where the clubs are not going to fear us. We're there to help them. We're going to help them get through any problems they have, but I really could use some volunteers to come and help. So if any of you would like to become a COC member, please contact me. Thank you.
Okay, I'll move on to the topics list. Hopefully all of you were able to grab one of these from the back of the room. This is our at a glance of what we're working on and what we've been talking about. Top on this list is the Strategic Alternatives Committee. The committee has gathered all of its members. I believe it's met twice. And you've probably seen some blasts coming out, letting the general membership know exactly what's going on, and we'll continue to do that as the committee progresses. Next on the list is the softball field. It's also further down on the list under short term. It came up here because we're beginning to do the prep, and over the summer, the work will be done. We're hoping to have a groundbreaking in November. There was a request to form a committee for EV charging stations. And that item actually is in the purview of the Technology Committee. And they aren't working on that right now, but it is one of the things that they'll be looking at in the near future. Another item was the Crail Run wall. It's my understanding that the wall is actually okay, and that they just need to put some fresh paint on it. So that will probably be done in the near future. There was a proposed a request for a process on large buildings. General Manager Cook, do you have anything about processes for large building projects?
So, Madam President, I mean, with any type of large building, we have processes that go through the PIF process. So we would approve that, but is this more referring to the process once it's been approved?
It just asked what the process was, so.
So I don't know, Mike, do you want to kind of go through your process of how you develop, any type of building in terms of the bid process? We go through a bid process. There's multiple ways that we can go through the bid process. And so, Mike, I don't know if you want to give a 2-minute update on that.
Sure. Let's just use the lake's maintenance facility recently. It was on the PIF, $4 million. We put together the drawings and got those through the county, and then those drawings went out to bid, and the contract was awarded. And we built the project, and I'm happy to report we're under the $4 million budget. So it's basically design, bid, build to follow our process. We design a project, get it through the county, then we go bid it out, get at least 3 bids, award the project, and then commence.
Okay, thank you. And the last two items were related to golf. One question was who determines golf prices, and the other was about golf tee times. Did you have any comments?
Madam President? So yes, so at the last Golf Advisory Committee, we put together a plan to help us with respect to opening up more of the prime tee times. So we've actually, Brian and his team actually met with the small group division, and they have agreed to start utilizing the smaller courses, and then the executive courses, and then they've actually taken are going to potentially move out some of their tee times to closer to the edges of the prime time. So there's that, in addition to the straight sheets that we're currently using. We think that that's working, so we've looked at some data on that and the bump rate, and it's currently right around the 10% range. So it's interesting. I've actually had a meeting with the GMs in the area, and in talking to one of the other GMs, their bump rate is typically 16%. So I'm happy that we're right in range with other golf courses, and we want to improve that. So I think at this point, the advisory committee is happy with the process that we've put together. And so, we're going to let that sink in, and hopefully we're going to open up more of those tee times.
No outside.
And then also, Brian, go ahead, Brian, if you want to, anything that I missed.
Just one or two things to add. Beginning next year, November through April, there won't be any outside events booked on our courses Monday through Friday. So that will open up times that were taken this past season by outside events. And I think that was about it. Bill covered the other topics that were on the list.
Director Collins?
Oh, yes. General Manager Cook, when you talked to them, did you ask them how they do their lottery, or do they have small groups?
Yes, they do have small groups, and their lotteries are very similar to our lotteries.
Thank you.
Director Collins?
Yes, sir.
I don't know if it's changed, but when we were going through the lottery process, I had visited with Sun City West and how they did their process, and their small groups, they don't even, when I was out there, they weren't even charging a surcharge or any type of fee for their small groups. They just put them on the tee sheet ahead of time. So we're a little bit different in that aspect.
Thank you.
Treasurer Fast?
I just wanted to make a quick comment about the Strategic Alternative Committee. We are meeting on Fridays, and Jean is handling the communication, so you'll see press releases come out. But you're also welcome to visit the room. It'll have up whiteboards. It'll have up, we have blueprint drawings that currently exist. Any member ideas will be up for viewing. And if you have any ideas, please reach out to a member of the SAC. I'm very appreciative. We've had very good turnout, and these folks represent a broad spectrum of the community. And we will have opportunities for participation on a limited time basis. So if you have a particular interest in one area, we will have opportunities for that. We're hoping to start open houses where one of the committee members will be present to answer questions, and you can come around and look at the data that they're looking at. You can see whatever ideas they're throwing around. We're trying to make this as absolutely open as possible. And the other thing I guess I would just say at the conclusion, the September recommendations, there will be a 2-month member input period. So it's not being brought up for a vote in September. It's being rolled out in September, and the members can take a look at what alternatives the committee is recommending, and we'll get feedback on those. Thank you.
Excuse me. Treasurer Fast, when you opened, you said that you can visit the rooms, but then you said you're hoping to start open houses. So is that the same thing?
You know, right now we're working out the details, but in terms of the Friday meetings, you can certainly visit the room then. We'll have to work out when the open hours are. We have one wrinkle in terms of the roof is going to be repaired from some period to some period. Naturally, there's always wrinkles. So during that period, we may work out something where we can get in from the street side as opposed to entering the center that will be closed.
Thank you. Oh,
Yeah.
and the meeting is at 2 p.m.
2 p.m. Thank you.
Do we need to indicate that the fire marshal came to visit and he increased the capacity of the room?
Yes, I think it's now 55, where before it was rated at 24. And the what we're calling the display room is rated at 27, so the total would be 81 at one time. If we have a greater need than that for open houses or whatever, we will figure out a scheduling process so that everyone has the opportunity to visit. And one of the things we're really serious about is any visitor will be given as many sticky notes as they want, and they can leave their comments on the actual exhibits and boards and whatever. And then my colleague, Director Totten, will collect those and make sure that they're preserved and summarized so that you all can see what others are saying.
Thank you. Someone asked this morning about the metal shop building and why it was not on this list. And the building itself was brought up at the last meeting, but as a project, typically the projects are followed by the project office. I don't really think we want to use this form for the purposes of following projects. And since someone did ask today about the metal shop building, what stage are we in making any needed repairs?
President Fimmel, we met with Dibble Engineering on site a couple weeks ago. Sorry. And we're waiting for them to provide a proposal back to us for design services.
Okay. Would you all like us to track this on here? Would that be beneficial to anyone? I heard 2 yeses.
Raise your hand.
Okay. Marcia, let's go ahead and add this to the list and put it under short term so we can be reminded of it. And with that, I will open the floor for your comments. Please come up. You have, Marcia, did you want to comment about the 3-minute time frame, or do you want me to talk about, you have 3 minutes? Please try to adhere to that if at all possible.
Sure. Thanks very much. My name is Alan Rockman, and I am the spokesperson for a club here in Sun City. It's an unofficial club. We call ourselves the Investing Information Exchange. You can call us the Money Club if you want. The half a dozen or 10 people that show up regularly have a combined years of experience in excess of 350 years just of investing time in their lives. Now, these members all subspecialize. Some do just stocks, some do bonds, some do futures, some do precious metals, gold, silver, that kind of thing. Some just do day trading. I personally am the house and not the gambler regarding options. I personally like to sell things that collect money for us. In any case, we're here because we had certain questions that we'd like to have answered. And the first one is, you as board, can you authorize kindly the release of monthly statements, or the most recent monthly statement? Currently, that would probably be April's statement, so that Kevin can bring that to our attention. We've had a couple of nice conversations in the recent past, and we hope that we can look at those things in more detail to see what kinds of positions we hold. Do we hold stocks and bonds? And we'd like to see those statements from both Wells Fargo and any other banks that we may be dealing with, as well as Schwab and any other investing methods that we may be employing here. Because last time, Kevin pointed out that we try to be conservative with our money. And so there's a big, significant amount of money invested in bonds. Last year, 2022, bonds yielded about 4%, but inflation was 9%. Just in that portfolio alone, if that's considered conservative, and his overall control of money is in the range of $50 million, we lost 5% of our money as a rec center. And we know with those years of experience, at least we can make suggestions in the friendliest possible way how we can stop losing money. And that 5% loss, just coincidentally, I think, was made up for by the exact 5% raise in all of our annual dues. It went from a round figure of 500 to 525, 5%. And we think we can do better than lose 5% a year of real money. It may look like we made 4%, but that does not take into account inflation. So we hope that the board can authorize Kevin to bring to our little Saturday morning club recent statements from both Schwab and Wells Fargo, and then we can look at them and talk about them in a friendly way. We want to be cooperative. We want to help us keep on a sound financial statement so that everything we've talked about here in the first 30 minutes can proceed without concern that next year the dues may go up another 5 or 10%. And that's enough for me. Thanks for your time, folks.
I'm certainly in favor of that.
Pardon?
I'm certainly in favor of releasing those statements. Of course, you're going to see that the account numbers are redacted, and that's just plain and simple.
We don't need the account numbers, but we'd like to see the individual positions, both in a bank and in the investing Schwab accounts.
Sure. And one thing I will tell you that other communities take a more aggressive investment stance and have seen their investment gains and losses ricochet. One community lost $6 million in a year versus making $4 million. Typically, what you've seen our investment policy.
Yes.
Okay. Typically, we're not out to invest money to put the members at risk, because that money is supposed to be used in a relatively current basis for amenities and member activities.
Sure, but last year, considering what you've just said,
yeah, I agree. There's a year where you're going to have that, and I think what you want to do first is you want to look at the investment policy and say, we disagree that should be our investment policy, and we should open it up to cryptocurrency and precious metals and whatever it is. We're passive investors, is the way I would put it, and the reason is we're not investors. We're just making sure that the safety and the liquidity, the money is there when we need it for what we need it. And so, but I'm happy to participate. And Kevin, if you're okay with it and Bill's okay with it, I'm happy to give them a recent statement to look at.
That'd be just great. Thank you. That would, and then we can just continue it on a more detailed level and make suggestions. I think it would be helpful for everybody to take advantage of our 350 years of investing experience.
Oh, absolutely.
Nobody in this group wants to do cryptocurrency, I can tell you that right now.
Thank you.
I can
Thank you
barely
very
spell
much.
the words. I'm not doing that stuff. But I do believe we lost $2.5 million last year just on inflation's impact on investments.
Yeah.
So we got to do better than that. And at least we could do is make suggestions, and I'm happy that you would be willing to let us look at these statements when they come available. That'd be great.
Oh, sure.
Thanks so much. Thanks a lot. Kevin, hope to see you there whenever you can arrange to come by on a Saturday morning when we meet.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
quick question. Are you is the club a registered club in the RCSC?
Not at all. This is just an informal group of people that get together. The computer room, the computer club, just by the kindness of their heart, let us use one of their rooms on a Saturday morning when nothing much else was going on. It's just a bunch of people getting together and talking and laughing and commiserating and telling movie reviews and what things to watch on YouTube about artificial intelligence, which is going to revolutionize investing in a major way, and it's going to affect everything. So we're not an official club, but we haven't missed a Saturday morning in 8 months since we got started.
Thank you.
Mr. Rockman, do you do consultations?
Yes, if you need me to make a house call, I'll ride my bicycle over and I'll give you a second opinion on whatever medical problems you're dealing with. I've been an MD at the first medical school in the United States that Benjamin Franklin founded. He and my father were classmates in 1700. Just kidding about that. But I'm proud to know that, to let you know that I went to University of Pennsylvania Medical School, the original one in the United States. And at that medical school, two of the research guys found out about and developed the original mRNA vaccine that we've all taken advantage of in the last several years. I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So, Madam President, if I could add, would
Yes,
it be
sir.
okay if we just give you our positions
Pardon?
and the amounts, the positions that we have and the amounts versus the statement? Would that be all right? Because we have the spreadsheets that show us by position and by dollar amount, and then the return on that as well.
Can we do both? Can we see a statement and these details? Because I don't know what we'd be getting and what we wouldn't be getting if we don't have the statements. To me, a statement says everything we need to see. I'm not sure I understand
We
how you're
typically don't
modificating.
hand out our statements, but I don't have a problem with the positions that we have in terms of what, what we're
How
investing in.
timely are those statements or are those position papers?
Yeah, they're monthly.
I'll let you guys decide what you think.
I think we need to talk the details probably offline and let other people speak, if you don't mind.
Well, you folks both have my phone number and my email address. Anytime, give me a call, and we'll see what we're talking about. Thank you very much for your time and listening.
Okay.
Thank you.
I think we should hire this guy. What do you think, huh? Alicia Brown, 50475. I'm here to talk to you about the tea time hiccup. I was here a year and a month ago to talk about the same thing. Where are we at? Nowhere. I made a tea time for May 13th this week, and I got an unsuccessful time. Guess what? It's not the large groups. It's the tournaments. You got 2 tournaments going on May 13th in Sun City. Can you explain that, Brian?
Other than the fact that we do allow tournaments per board policy, one north of Grand, one south of Grand.
Sure, you also have a golf course that shut down to 9 holes. Probably didn't think about that when you made the tournaments. My other question to you is, you just made this statement 5-6 minutes ago. There will be no tournaments Monday through Friday. When do the tournaments give the tee times hiccups? Saturday and Sunday. So you're still going to have tournaments on Saturday and Sunday from when you try your thing in November? Again, it is not the large golf groups. It's the tee time scheduling with tournaments. It crunches everything. I got on the web portal this morning, and I can get a tee time on Saturday, May 13th at 11 o'clock, including South, Riverview, Willow Creek. So I have to go to the small courses. But why should we have to do that? You've got to figure out some way to run this organization without bringing in all this extra revenue. If you can afford to shut a golf course down for 9 months, half of it, you don't need this outside revenue, do you? Leave the big groups alone and think about the outside tournaments and outside play. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Rick Hannon. I'm the president of the swim club for Sun City. I'm here to give some suggestions for the Mountain View pool. Pretty new. I was very excited to hear John invite us to come in and see the plans, because I'm kind of shooting in the dark a little bit here as about what we actually have on the board right now. But I would like to share with you some of the suggestions for what that pool should look like. The length and width, of course, would fit into the physical parameters of that rec center, Mountain View. We would like a lap pool involved in that, and the lap pool could be anywhere from 4 to however long it could be, as far as many lanes. We would like it in a standard length of 25 meters or 25 yards. And the most important thing is we would like it to have square sides. It doesn't help to have a lap pool like Lakeview that has circular sides so that when you push off, you go into somebody else's lane. Having a ladder in the middle of the lap lane like Lakeview is not conducive to the lap lines. We are very, very thankful for the Bell Pool. That is the standard, and as a matter of fact, is the only sanctioned competitive pool in the Sun City retirement communities in the Northwest. The other thing I would suggest is that if possible, you keep the lap pool separate from the walking pool or recreation pool so that you can temperature control it. We did a study in 2017 that showed that you needed to have that pool between 78 and 82 degrees. And we would like to see a lap pool in that temperature range for the swimmers. It's healthier and safer for them. The other thing that really is important is to make sure that the bottom of the pool has got a T at the end of each line so that the swimmer can tell that they're getting ready to come into the end. We've done that with quite a few pools, and I just want to remind everyone here that it doesn't take much, but it's a big deal when you're getting ready to make a turn so you don't crunch your head into the wall. I'd like to thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, I would be happy to try and answer them. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could we speak after the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yep.
Good morning, Harry Emerson, 130678. I want to address the current discussions to relieve the pressure on tee time availability that are currently underway December through March. Full disclosure, I'm on the Willow Creek Willowbrook Greens Committee, and as such, a voting member of Golf Advisory. The only small group I play on is the Saturday Willow Creek Bandits. Monday and Friday, I compete for tee times just like everybody else. So far, the folks that speak on this topic, either in this forum or at Golf Advisory, generally either have an individual issue with how the tee time system is unfair, they're not getting the tee times they want, if any, how the lottery is unfair, small groups are the boogeyman, and off-campus players / the public are taking too many prime times, just to name a few. In my opinion, the only statement that is totally accurate is that it's difficult getting tee times in the peak seasons, and we're all frustrated when our lottery request comes back unsuccessful. The overall lottery request rate is around 89%, but multiple tee times for groups seem to be less than that. And if you limit your parameters, you markedly reduce your chances. All our systems of running 353,000 annual rounds through these courses, maximizing rounds to pay the bills, trying to keep the courses in acceptable playing conditions, while costs, wages, inflation, all are way up, we choose to focus on keeping price per round as low as we can. Golf courses these days need all categories of private and public players to make it work. How the various parts are managed and costed is the trick. For the past few months, management and Golf Advisory are implementing a number of tweaks, 6 to be exact, which I'm sure you're all familiar with, and the full impact of these will not be felt until we're well into the winter season. These are very well thought out tweaks, not major surgery to the current system, and may drive down demand. They're not burning down the current system, and they will definitely help. There's really only one way to reduce demand if we as RCSC do not want to purchase more golf courses, which I still think is a good idea, by the way, and that's to manage price per round elasticity. Lower prices generate a higher level of play. Higher prices reduce the demand on the tee sheet. In all categories, our fee per round is the lowest in the immediate area for non-resident and resident players, while these courses are generally in a better state of play. There is a definite relationship. The current tweaks will certainly help, but the high demand will remain. This is a problem courses nationwide would love to have. The small group portion of Board Policy 17 is a sensible accommodation to organize small groups. It's flexible enough to give management the tools they can tailor, meets a definite social need, and increases beer sales. These same players that some people think if we do away with this will disappear from the tee sheet will not happen. They're still going to play, and they can still clog up the lottery. I have 2 requests, recommendations for the board. Number 1, let the current modifications to the lottery process run for next year and evaluate the impact effects, meaning as board members get emails of folks with lottery questions, pasting those 6 bullets on the reply back would certainly help. And secondly, concurrently review all, and I'm recommending all categories of our rate structure using parity with Sun City West as a starting point. Any questions?
I have some questions for you, Harry, if you don't mind, since you're part of a small group. What I sort of heard you say several things. One, you want us to push this forward for another 6 months, at least, minimum. So the lady who's talking about having this go on now for over a year will be a little more unhappy to have pushed it 6 months further ahead. The other thing is that you want to look at the complete rate structure, for which I have no objection, but that sounds like increasing the price to resident golfers, and I just want to make sure I heard that correctly. And then the final thing is a question that I have for you as part of a small group. When you go to play, when you set your prime time tee times, and you have 30 people in your group, do all 30 people always come to play?
3 questions. I can hardly remember what I did last night. But, let me try and take it one at a time. The rate question is what I would do is I'd pop up on a slide our current rate structure, Sun City by category, Sun City West current rate structure by category, which has a few more moving parts than ours does, and just look horizontally across there and see, yes, in resident, non-resident, public, non-resident passes, all of that stuff I think needs to be looked at in its totality. Because you change one, it's going to affect the other pieces and parts. The question about the small groups, how many show up based on the 30th? My experience has been of the groups I play in, we usually have, because the names have to be submitted fairly with a length of period of time in advance, most of the time we have, as it gets closer, you'll have additional folks that want to play in that particular group. Now, I'm just talking for the Saturday Bandits, but we really don't have a problem with it. We say we're going to have X amount of guys play on Saturday. We have at least that many. And the question about the off-campus tournaments, yeah, the discussion was around, and it was talked about of November through April, of Monday through Friday, because the particularly the Monday and Friday days are in much more demand on the lottery system than Saturday is. The previous speaker doesn't agree with that, but that's what we concluded. Was that all three of them?
I think so, but when I heard you say that if you have 30, you bring 30, because I was wondering what happens when you say you have 30, but you only bring 25, because you know that when you show, and now you've got 5 slots that went unfilled,
right,
and it's too late to fill them. Basically, those slots have been burned. So I'm wondering what impact that has.
Well, I mean, and we've talked about different time frame parameters of when that final list of names, if you make a request for 40 people, say, and as you get within, I think it's 5 or 7 days now, you're only going to have 30. You then have to give those that would be 2 tee times back to Chris, who would put them back in the system. So I mean, there's a back and forth. I would say the lesser included offense in your question is actually on my way driving up here today. I came up Boswell, and I think it's Riverview. Was it between 13 and 14 or 12 and 13? Two guys in the carts roaring across Boswell to finish their round. So that's 3 slots that were not filled by a paying customer. So there's a whole, the tee sheet, no-shows, that sort of thing, that's a whole nother discussion that probably we should have.
Well, that seems very problematic to me, that 3 people who could have played golf weren't able to play golf today. Yep. Thank you, Harry.
Madam President.
Yes, Director Collins.
Yes, Harry. I hear everybody say, you know, let's compare with Sun City West and this and that, but I don't think you'd make it to the parking lot if we raised the no-fee surcharge to $3,500 to compete with what they're doing. I mean, we're different. We're totally different, and it's not always apples to apples when you're trying to deal with Sun City West.
Well, I know. I brought my golf cart, but I didn't bring my car.
Harry, can we put you back at the microphone for a second? Sir, would you mind? Thank you.
I think that's a valid point, and I hear it when I bring this up at meetings, but I think that's a place to start in terms of some level of analysis of our rate structure to what other folks are charging, because the price of fuel, seed, fertilizer, everything applies to all of us around here, that all of them that run the golf courses. And I just think we're out of whack. And comparing us to Sun City West is a good way to start that analysis. Doesn't mean we have to do it, because the focus is going to go in the public, the annual non-resident. I mean, that's where I think the initial focus will go, but the rest of it has to be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam President.
Yes, General Manager.
Thank you. So just to add to that, we do look at comparisons every year. Actually, Brian has a great spreadsheet that shows probably comparisons to 7 or 8 courses. And so, we have to balance that against, how much subsidization is happening in the golf courses. And I know that we subsidize our golf less than some of the other courses around here. So last year, at 350,000 rounds, Brian and the golf division actually covered all of their cash flow expenses last year from a capital expense. So we have to find that fine line in terms of, do we want to raise rates? Now, we're raising rates for outside play. We've done it on the passes twice already this year, or within the last year, because we know we want to reduce that play. So we're doing that. And then just to say, we are looking at it, and we absolutely will make some adjustments. So.
Yes, sir.
Mark Littau, 22422.
Wait just a second, please.
Sir, I believe he was actually there first. Go. Would you mind, sir? Sir?
Oh, thank you. Tom Swenson, 135906. I am acting president of Sun City Players and directors and President Fimmel. I'm trying to stay focused on one objective today, which is I think we've let you know on many occasions that we have to plan far out for our performances and so forth. And we're not hearing back when we're going to be out of that facility or not, or what. That's just a big question mark. And I really want to drill down and see if I can get you to promise a date, or promise to give us a date by the end of the month. And the reason is we need to plan a year out for our shows. And we're now down to the fact that we need to get publicity out for our season, which we've developed in June and July for the next fall through the next summer. And the big question mark for me is that, are we going to be able to do our second show that we've already paid the rights for? And as the assistant director, the director and I are already reading the script, trying to design that show. So I just think it's a reasonable ask for you to answer the question, when will we be out of Sun City, out of Mountain View facility?
Well, let me see if I can try to answer that question for you, because this is what we know with certainty. The Strategic Alternatives Committee, it does not require it to complete its work until the end of September. So no decisions will be made before the end of September. Once the document is completed, it will go to the membership. The membership will have ample time to look at it. I would say that time would probably run them up to their annual members meeting, which is on the 29th of November. Okay? So a decision is probably not going to be made until sometime in November as to, we can't even begin to predict what will happen. But at this point, whatever is determined by the committee will have been reviewed fully by the membership. So no decision is going to probably be derived before the end of November.
So
okay?
we are out those hours and hours of prep that we're doing. We cannot audition.
No, what
and
I'm
we
trying,
cannot.
what I'm trying to say to you, sir, if I can finish
we cannot sell a season. So I hear your plan, and
I'm telling you, nothing is going to happen before the end of November. Are you able to proceed by knowing that nothing's going?
President Fimmel?
Yes.
Could I jump in
please,
here? I
sir.
think I can help this out a great deal.
Yes, sir.
Tom, are you talking about the year 2024?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've already told Jim McConnell a long time ago that you guys would be available to use that facility all through 2024, because based on the old plan, which is now on hold, we weren't going to start construction until first quarter of 2025. So I do not see an issue, from my point of view, I don't see an issue committing 2024 for the current auditorium.
Well, I have heard, directly and through rumor, 100 other options. And I understand that, what you're saying. Thank you, Mike. But actually, I thought it was 2024 is when the demolition was going to happen in January.
We're talking no earlier than the first quarter of 2025 for demolition. I told Jim that 2024 was good.
Okay.
What I said I couldn't commit to was 2025 in any way, shape, or
Then
form.
can I get that from the directors, please?
It sounds like you're good to 2024. Did I say that correctly?
Through 2024.
Through 2024.
Are you okay with that, Director Fast?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Because there was also talk from you of putting pickleball courts in there this summer. So I'm not completely erroneous on this.
Yeah, the committee has just begun its work. It has a lot
I
of work
understand
to
that.
do.
And I want to start journeying again. I had some severe health problems, but I'm back.
President?
Director Collins.
Yes, Madam President, I was under the assumption that they would be continuing in this theater until their theater was built, unless the theater was going to be built on that site. So if the theater gets built somewhere else, they will continue to play there until their new theater is built. Of course, if it's being built there, that's a different story.
That's a problem.
But that would have been anyway.
Right.
But that's what I was under the assumption.
Well, this is really good news. I appreciate the good news.
Good.
I'm just don't want any ricochet or swing back on this.
Well, you can say you heard it here first.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Director.
Thank you.
President.
If I could,
Yes,
Kat, I think your main question has been answered, right? The 2024 season, that facility, as it exists, will be available for the entire season? Is that?
Well, it's confusing because there's seasons and calendar years, but I'm hearing it's the calendar year, which would be a season and a half or 2 half seasons or something.
Right, right. And yeah, and I would defer to our building and infrastructure director as far as the details, but if he says that it's the entire calendar year of 2024 before we can get the building demolished, then that's what it is.
Okay. Well, that's ecstatic news. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience, sir.
Can I make a suggestion before I start? Could we just have like one lectern in some system where people know when they're going to speak instead of this 2 lecterns? And it seems like it's kind of difficult to figure out when you're supposed to get up here.
We'll take that under advisement, sir.
All right. Thank you. Mark Littow, 22422. I have a few comments regarding the golf lottery system and the modifications distributed by management at the April 20th Golf Advisory meeting. Number 1, no outside play Monday through Friday, November through April. You know, back in March, 5 groups were playing on Saturdays in March, 140 players approximately. If the outside pre-booking groups are moved to Saturday, that will probably make it just as crowded as Monday and Friday. No lottery users should be rejected because non-resident pre-booking. Outside groups should be eliminated on Saturday as well. You know, if it costs a little more to play golf here and actually get a tee time, I think it'd be worth it. I mean, we pay probably the least amount of any of Sun Cities and probably most retirement communities in the country. Number 2, small group tee times to move closer to the edges of the high demand times. That needs to be clarified to state the specific amount of preferred tee times available to pre-booking groups. Currently on Monday and Friday, small groups, not including outside groups, comprise roughly 19% of golfers, lottery users 81%. Small groups should be restricted to 19% of preferred tee times for lottery users to get their fair share of the 240 available preferred tee times at the 5 regulation courses Monday and Friday. That would be a total of 46 preferred tee times for the small groups, maximum, or 6 hours. Also not included in the modifications, but requiring consideration, 70-plus member pre-booking groups taking 2 hours of consecutive tee times, as we currently have on Saturday, should not be allowed in the future. Pre-booking groups, their numbers and size should be capped. I think the board needs to consider these more specific rules to make the lottery fair and viable for now and into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anita Dahl, and I just want to ask if there's something we can do after the last meeting. This is supposed to be a members exchange, so whatever we exchange should have to do with all of us members, or at least a portion of us, like golf or et cetera. Last week or last month, someone got up and said that they were upset because at a concert, an RCSC staff member wasn't wearing her shirt. That's a good suggestion. I mean, it does help us to know who is employees, who's not. But after what happened after that should never have been allowed to happen here. One-on-one exchanges against a board member or a RCSC employee is something between those 2 people. I would not want any one of the RCSC people saying, Anita Dahl was at the pool and she splashed too much, and I can't get up and, that if I did something, the 2 people should be called together. And I think if that ever happens again, I respectfully ask you to ask the person to stop speaking. We have incident reports, and that's the way it should be handled, not in a public forum. And it upset me greatly when that happened. And I just ask in the future if you could please shut people down if they're doing anything that doesn't have to do with the other 99.9% of us. So I thank you.
Thank you.
I was also very upset at that member's conduct. And I will take it upon myself, if that begins to happen again, to have a point of order, and we will not have that kind of conduct.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, everybody. I'm happy to be here in front of this board today and share some positive things. It looks like you guys have been shot at, shot up, and shot down.
Sir, can you give us your name and number?
Yes, my name is Hadley Starkey, 153603. I just memorized it this morning.
Thank you.
But I see from the camera my hair is thinning in the back. Anyway, I'm here to help you guys with the opportunity to put together a committee on EV charging stations. I've been in this community for 3 years now, and I thought I was retired, but got called out of retirement just recently in January to head up an international company. I'm the president of Yerrick Geoenergy. We're in 70 countries around the world. And being a Sun City resident, we can offer you guys the ability to install EV charging stations throughout Sun City. Now, I know that everybody's complaining about the golf courses and the tee times, but Brian, specific to your golf courses, this is a great place to put in EV charging stations. I want to applaud the committee, first of all, because you're a bunch of super active, successful business people and entrepreneurs and military veterans. So with that, I just wanted to introduce, because I don't have prepared remarks, the fact that we can offer you EV charging stations that, if you want them to be, they can be a very viable source of revenue for Sun City in general. They can work off of the current grid that you have with the solar panels as well. But if you didn't want to put them under the canopies, then you could potentially put in generators or even transformers. But what's coming, proprietary to Yerrick Geoenergy, folks, is we are also going to have hydrogen available, and we have a hydrogen station that's being built in Las Vegas that will serve all of North America for EV charging stations to further reduce the cost of the grid and the demand on the grid. So if you are building revenue, which you are from tournaments in golf, then you can potentially build significant revenue from EV charging stations being installed and accessible to anybody who passes through town or visiting town that wants to charge an EV. We also have home chargers as well. So that's what I wanted to address with you folks and help the community in any way possible to meet this demand. We can install, we can produce 10,000 EV charging stations a month right here in the United States. So I'll give my time back to the board with 8 seconds to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions?
There will be follow-up.
All right. You guys all have my card, and I'll be happy to help you with your committee and answer any questions.
Thank you.
Stay amazing. I got to go run a company.
Good morning, board members and staff. My name is Jeff Ormond, 122887. I guess I'm kind of one of the bad guys because I'm one of the groups with golf. I kind of took on it myself to watch your meetings after we got called to a meeting with Brian and Chris, that there was a lot of complaints that tee times were being hard to get. I don't know if any board members have ever looked at any of the people complaining or even looked at their rounds played. Do we know that the people actually aren't getting 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock tee times, or are they just not getting the courses they want to play on? One of the gentlemen that came up said, I live on North and I should be able to play on North. That's not true. We get, all the groups rotate courses, and we rotate times through our groups. I have a group of tee times for my group, and not one of my members golfs at 9 o'clock more than once every 6 to 7 weeks. They go all the way up to 11:07. So we're not locked into these tee times, but we do take a grid of tee times for the groups. I don't know what the solution is. I know I've talked to Brian and Chris, and they don't seem to think we're the total problem. But at the same time, we are groups that need to play together because we do match plays and different types of functions. I don't know if you put us in the lottery system, like the last gentleman said, that it would make a difference. I think it would, because you're going to put a lot more people back on the stress of the lottery. So from our group standpoint, we're just having a hard time being kind of be the bad guys, if you want to call it that. We don't feel we're the bad guys. We pay for these tee times. We came out of the old draw system, if any of you ever knew what the draw system was. We all got up at 6 in the morning, went to the courses, picked a chip, waited another 40 minutes, and then went in line to book our tee times. The large groups back then pushed numbers of people to these so-called draws, and it was miserable. So when Brian and Chris, and back then Jan Eckers, I believe, developed this lottery system, I don't know that it's perfect, but I don't know that any system you're going to put in place is going to be perfect unless, like we talked about prior to me talking, the gentleman, raise your prices, kill all your outside play, and kill your revenues. I don't know any other way to say it. So as far as board member Fimmel, I take a roll call for my group the day we play for the prior week, and I call my tee times in that next evening or next morning. So any tee times that we release, if, for example, some of my players are sick or don't play or can't play, that tee time's given back into the lottery. So our tee times do get back into the lotteries. I also call. If these residents that are complaining call the pro shops, there are tee times available. I called for a tee time 4 days prior to the day Monday, and I'll give you the dates. I called on April 20th for the 24th, and I happened to call because I know most of the shop head starters. I called and asked my girl, Gloria, what times were available for Monday the 24th. On the 20th, I had Riverview at 9:45, Lakes West at 10:07 and 10:37, and Willow Creek at 9:30. So I don't know that they know these tee times are available if they just get kicked off the lottery and they're just complaining. I don't know if they call the courses to find out if there's available tee times that were either dismissed or dropped. So I can't answer those questions, but it's all part of the puzzle. So I think what Brian and Chris asked us to do is fine with us. We will move up or do whatever in our tee times, but we have to play as a group. I think it's kind of senseless to put us on par 3 courses because some of the players that really need to play those courses because they can't play the big courses, you're going to affect them, and I think you're going to see some complaints on it down the road. I know some of them because now groups are going to be taking some of those tee times up. But at the end of the day, I don't know the solution, but I do know it's not the groups that are causing all the problems. And I just want to make that clear so we're at least not picked on. My group generates about $150,000 of revenue for Sun City. And that's because we buy the golf pass at $70,000. We pay $50,000 for our rounds because we pay an extra $2. We pay $15,000 approximately in range balls and probably spend about $20,000 more in the pro and snack shops. So we're not small, and we are revenue to Sun City. So I don't want to take any more of your time up, board, but I just wanted you to understand that this is where we're coming from. We're groups that really want to play together, and we don't want to be dismantled because of a few people complaining.
Madam President.
Director Collins.
Yes, I have just one question. On the day that you picked, did you look at the calendar to see if those times were open?
I actually looked at the calendar, yes. But I just called 2 times. One of the times, so you understand too, I also booked the time on Golf Now because Golf Now had time to take that tee time 3 days before. 2 days after the lottery, 3 days before the prior tee time, or the tee time booking, 5 days out, they can take those 3 tee times. They were on Golf Now, and I booked it just to see if it was a live tee time, and then I canceled it.
But was it open on the calendar?
Yes.
It was open?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Marone, 100825. Good morning.
Good
something different here. I believe that the following items need to be addressed. We don't need answers today, but we do deserve having them in a timely manner prior to the upcoming annual membership meeting. Item 1, when it comes to voting at our annual membership meeting, will we be allowed to vote, and will those votes be definitive? Voting is one of the rights of membership given to us in the Articles of Incorporation, but somehow taken away by some vague bylaw. Item 2, has the board defined what the items are and are not affairs of the corporation? Which items can we address and which items we can't? Item 3, there were 5 amendments to the bylaws offered in the 2021 meeting, and so far only one of which has been acted upon, and it took more than a year to do so. Has there been any discussions or determinations regarding the 4 remaining amendments other than the unsuccessful attempt to revise the bylaws? Item 4, the bylaws, Article 4, Section 5, still requires that all votes at membership meetings shall be by ballot, a very time-consuming and labor-intensive method, and a rule that currently cannot be suspended. I should also mention that the election committee, at least for the several years that I've been on it, has never addressed or even discussed our involvement and participation in administering a vote by ballot. Assuming for a minute we managed to acquire a quorum again this year, do you really want to vote by a ballot to simply approve the minutes of the previous year's meetings? Section 5 of this bylaw needs to be totally eliminated and simply allow votes to be cast, counted, and determined by the numerous other and much simpler methods available and in full accordance with Robert's rules. Voting by ballot is a secret vote typically and primarily used for elections and not for normal orders of business. I believe the members deserve definitive answers to these questions and in a timely manner so that we can prepare for the upcoming membership meeting. Any questions? No? Thank you.
Hi, Brad Zimmerman, 149328. I'm with the golf people too, but not the big group thing too, but my thing is we play on Sunday with our wives. There's a group of us that play with our wives, and they always like to play Quail Run and East and Brook, the smaller courses. They don't like to be on the big courses. And we always put in for the lottery. And we have a gentleman named Don, who's not here, but he always did that for us, and we never got Willowbrook. And so one day I live up by Willowbrook, and I went in and I said, Gloria, I said, we just never get on here. We can't get on here on Sundays. And she goes, why not? I said, well, because you don't come up on our lottery. We always get the other ones. So she said, well, what do you need? I said, well, we'd like, Sunday at 9 to 10, because there's 5 of us. It's only foursomes on the smaller courses. So we'll need 5 tee times. She says, I got anything you want. So I said, are you kidding? She said, no. So she changed it for us that one time. So I told Don, I said, Don, why don't we just check by just calling these courses? So now we play Willowbrook all the time, because we just call. We don't even do the lottery, and we can get on. So my suggestion is, if you're doing the lottery and you're not getting what you want, just call the golf courses and say, what do you got? Because there are tee times available. Now, if you want 9:45, you might get 9:57. I don't know. But I'm just saying you have a good chance of getting on. And like he says, there's a twosome crossing. If you're just another twosome, they can put you with them. So you can get on to play golf. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Zimmerman?
Well, I'm sorry.
Just a quick comment on not getting Willowbrook. The only thing I can think of is when they were making the request that they were saying that time was the most important rather than course. If you say time's the most important, even if Willowbrook had 9:07 available and you wanted 9 o'clock and Quail had 9 o'clock available, you're always going to get Quail. So choosing course as your preferred preference, if you might help that also.
But I had also mentioned to Gloria when I was there that what was happening, and she said, I get a lot of that. She says, I get a lot of people that call up and say, really, do you have time? So I don't know if it's a glitch in the lottery or if it's just...
From the little that I've when I've gone in to look at people's requests when they've made that type of comment, it's usually because they have time as being more important than golf course.
Okay, thank you.
Bill Pearson, 133438. I wasn't going to speak, but there's been so much comments about golf, and I'm encouraged by the fact that it's going back to the Golf Advisory Committee. I'm discouraged because a year and a month after this first came up, April of 2022, we're now selling more full-time passes than we did back then. That makes no sense to me. And when I say full-time passes, I mean to outsiders. I really don't care what you do with the insiders, although I keep hearing about the cost of golf going up, and I know we haven't raised the rates on full-time inside play since 2017, so I'm not quite sure how that computes. But here's the basic logic of it from me, and I used to golf, I don't any longer. The people that play the most rounds and pay the least amount of money can then buy $2 and override the lottery. With all due respect to the small groups, big groups, whatever you want to call them, they pay the least amount of money, and then they buy a tee time for $2, and they override the lottery. And that's not bad enough. We then say to outside people, you get to join small groups too, and you can pay $2 and override the lottery. I've lived here 20 years. Within 2 days of being full-time, 20 years. My good friend who I'm sitting with, Ben Roloff, has lived here 25 years. In all of the years that we've been coming to meetings, up until May of 2022, or April of 2022, getting a tee time wasn't an issue that was front and center month after month after month. What we found was that when you said to those people not living here, you can come and enjoy our courses for half-price golf. Thank you, you raised it a little bit. Still hasn't killed it, slowed it. It's still the bargain of the West Valley. And consequently, that's when it all started. I remind people continually, Sun City was built by and for the members. As we go forward with a strategic long-range plan, anything we do should be by and for the members. The IRS regulations, our letter of application, I've read them, by and for the members. When we start allowing half of our lines of bowling to come from outside this community, does that make sense? When we have only 10% of the rounds going to outsiders who are paying less than our members, does that make any sense? And so at some point we've got to come back to reality and understand Sun City was built by and for the members. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brenda Frank, 149988. And I also want to talk golf. I'm a golfer. And I agree with the gentleman that said if you bail out on if the lottery doesn't give you what you want, call the pro shop. I've done that a number of times, and I've been able to get tee times. It's not there's always tee times. I live on Willow Creek. I see gaps in play, even in the morning. Less during the winter, I'll be honest. When the snowbirds are here, it can be one group after another, but even still, there are gaps in play, and if you call the pro shop a day or two in advance, you're most likely going to get a tee time somewhere. And again, it might not be the exact time. Well, I want exactly 9 o'clock. Well, they don't have exactly 9 o'clock, but you can go off at 9:07. Is that good enough? Yeah. So that's my personal experience. Addressing outside groups, there's a lot of discussion about that. It is kind of disheartening sometimes to know that there's a big outside tournament and you can't play. But I do want to talk about an exception, and that was when they closed Willow Creek for a junior tournament. They had the kids out there all day, from high school on down. I love that. We need to get the kids involved in golf. It's a healthy activity for them, and I would love to see us continue to have opportunities for the children on our courses for this. It also resulted in our snack shop running out of cold beverages and warm beverages and food because the families all come with the kids, and they pretty much cleaned out our snack shop. So it was a money raiser in that respect, as well as the green fees that they paid. So that's just all I had to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments? Seeing none, I'll let you know that the next board meeting is scheduled for May 25th.
Who wants to speak?
I'm sorry?
I believe someone over here wanted to speak after you're finished, I guess. No?
Does someone wish to
Oh.
speak?
Well, I do then.
Please, speak.
Sorry about that, everyone. I just realized that I should have spoken up twice. Once, Ms. Tom Marone, thank you for talking about the bylaws. I do want you to know that a couple of us have made attempts at starting to look at the other 4 that are left from the member meeting, but we're not quite there yet. We still have work to do. But none of it has been forgotten. And for Bill Pearson, and for everyone, I'm not a golfer, and I'm learning. I took part in when the gentleman came from the Southwest Gulf.
USGA.
Oh, I'm sorry.
USGA.
USGA. I can't even remember the name of it. It's fascinating and interesting to learn and hear. And I'm sorry that so many of us seem to have comments about it. And I know we have a strategic or a committee that works with the golfers. I'd love to see a big committee work at this and bring up each of the points and go through and make sure that what someone thinks is real. Whittle it down. However, we have a huge list of things that we're trying to do, and right now the SAC, or the Strategic Alternatives Committee, is taking quite a bit of our time. But I just want you to know that I feel your pain, and the only way I know how to help is get you all in a room and go at it. So we'll see what happens.
Do we have any other director comments before I close the meeting? The next meeting of the board is May 25th at 9 a.m. here at Sundial. The next exchange is June 12th at 9 a.m. here at Sundial. And the annual members meeting is scheduled for November 29th at 6 p.m. here at Sundial. There being no further business and without objection, this meeting will be adjourned. Please remember to turn your phones and electronic devices back on. Thank you.
This is a copyrighted production of the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated and is intended for the sole purpose of informing our Recreation Center members. Any duplication, copying, transmission, broadcast, or use, including electronic and social media, is strictly prohibited without the prior written consent from the Recreation Centers of Sun City Incorporated. Thank you for watching.